until the official start of the season. Still no deal for McLaurin as he and the Commanders can't seem to find common ground. Cliff Kingsbury, the offensive coordinator, spoke earlier today, was very candid about the importance of having his star wideout on the field. Listen to this.
I'm huge on walkthroughs, on practice, things like that, because until you get on the grass and actually do it and feel the timing, feel the depths of routes and things of that nature, I don't know exactly how much you can get out of that. So I think we're kind of at that point to where we need to start getting those guys when they're available out there and gelling and seeing what we are as an offense.
He's like, I need my guy. Jeremy, what more can you tell us about where the contract talks stand right now between McLaurin and the Commanders?
Yeah, Laura, from what I'm hearing, there's still a pretty sizable gap in how they see the wide receiver market. Washington's down here. Terry McLaurin's pretty high up here. I'm told the players dug in, remains frustrated. Not a lot of traction on a trade right now, even though I do know there are some teams that are interested or have at least called. But right now, I'm told Washington does remain optimistic in this. Despite some of the smoke around all the issues and him still out of practice, they feel like when push comes to shove, closer to week 1, they can reach some sort of compromise. It's probably not going to be a situation where he plays out the year in his contract and plays the franchise tag next year. Like, he needs some sort of contract. They're hoping they can find a sweet spot here, but they're sort of waiting each other out. And meanwhile, this could get ugly.
Yeah, and again, as we said off the top, we're just 3 weeks away. Bill, how different does this Commanders offense look when Terry McLaurin isn't on the field if, God forbid, we end up in that situation?
Yeah, certainly Washington fans hoping that doesn't happen, but there was a meaningful drop-off last year when Jaden Daniels did not have his star receiver on the field. A 73.1 total QBR with McLaurin on the field. That dropped to 63 without Terry McLaurin in the lineup. And I think Cliff Kingsbury's point here is really important because it means even if these two sides do come to an agreement between now and the start of the season, it's not like Terry McLaurin's going to be, fully featured and functional in that offense. He might not be playing 100% of the snaps, 95% of the snaps, the way the Commanders might want with a normal training camp for Terry McLaurin. And then you factor in Deebo Samuel, the other guy coming into the situation. And for the 49ers, they've always been a roster where they wanted to kind of use Deebo about 80% of the time, limit his snaps because of how physical he is as a football player. So you kind of want to have both those guys. There might be snaps early in the year where Jaden Daniels doesn't have either of his star receivers on the field.
When the Commanders traded for Deebo Samuel, I really liked the fit, the idea of Deebo being an underneath target, a yards after catch guy. Cliff Kingsbury loves to call screens. Deebo is the ultimate screen receiver. But that entire premise, in my mind, rests on having Terry McLaurin on the field so that defenses can't cheat up to the line of scrimmage and stack the box against the run. You take McLaurin out of the equation and they're not deep at all at receiver in terms of a guy who's a true second, third level threat the way McLaurin was. Noah Brown, Luke McCaffrey. And McLaurin last year was not only prolific in reaching the end zone, league-wide on throws over 10 yards, he was 5th in yards per route run, top 10 in target share. I understand that this is more about finances, and what he's asking for and his age, but I truly do not believe this Commanders offense can get anywhere close to its ceiling without him.
Yeah, Jaden Daniels has continued to say that he's had conversations with McLaurin, but he doesn't really mess with the business side of things, but has also been adamant that they need him on the field. I think everybody agrees when you're talking about the future of this team, or at least next season. All right, let's go to L.A. next, where Justin Herbert will make his first preseason start of his career. Okay, yeah, you heard that right first. The quarterback spoke to the media yesterday after Jim Harbaugh made the announcement and explained why they're deciding for him to play.
Be able to see a pass rush and get a feel for getting the ball out and just seeing a game before you actually play in a game. I think in years past the plan was to rest and see those reps, but I wanted to go out there and see a pass rush because in practice as a quarterback you don't always get the true feeling of a pass rush. So I thought it'd be helpful to go out there, and I just thought this was something that could be good for me, good for the team, and so I'm not against trying it.
Yeah, it's so important for a quarterback's timing, right, to be able to feel that real time. What is Jim Harbaugh and this Chargers coaching staff looking to see from Justin Herbert specifically, though, in this start this weekend?
Well, Laura, Harbaugh wants to see Justin Herbert well protected with an offensive line that's really physical. In just 1 or 2 series, you're not going to see the starters out there very long. But guard Mekhi Becton has been out. We know Rashawn Slater's out for the year. They've been pretty banged up front. So they want those 5 to have a nice clean pocket. They want to have a physical running game. McLaurin Hampton, the rookie, great opportunity for him. They've loved him all camp, but their practices aren't overly physical. He's not taking a lot of hits. So this is a chance for him to impose his will physically, which he's good at. And then Keenan Allen could really step in and be the number 2 receiver right now. So the Chargers are trying to figure out who else is going to pop here, which young player, like maybe rookie Trey Harris, is going to come in and provide a spark.
Yeah, always nerve, I guess, inducing thing when you talk about Justin Herbert playing in a preseason game, and that's followed by, but they're still missing a number of players because obviously his health is paramount for this Chargers season. I do understand the desire to get him comfortable, though, behind that reworked offensive line, to get them experience, right, with the new tackle situation. I think for LA, especially with the offensive line issues, something that's going to be really important is keeping Herbert out of 3rd and long. Last year, the Chargers were 22nd in distance to go on 3rd down. Much of that was because they were ineffective in running the ball on early downs, so obviously that's going to be a focus. I also think, though, McLaurin Hampton could be a factor in the pass-catching game. The Chargers were 31st in targets to running backs last year, and Hampton was an excellent receiver at UNC, 373 receiving yards, an average of 10 yards per catch. That's another way you can stay out of 3rd and long. And if you can stay out of 3rd and long, then there's less pressure on that offensive line to protect Justin Herbert.
Yeah, Mina mentioned the running game, and you want to see that not only in the preseason, but stretching into the regular season as well. And it doesn't have to be home runs from McLaurin Hampton, but you want to see consistency, and you want to see the chains moving forward. They were 30th in success rate last year, which measures how often the offense stays on track, keeps on track for first downs, and avoids those 3rd and longs Mina was mentioning. They weren't always great in short yardage last season as well. But on that 1st and 10, I know it doesn't seem like a big difference to get 2, 3, 4 yards, but keeping on track, avoiding those obvious pass rushing situations, it's such a benefit for your offense. It keeps you in such advantageous situations, keeps the defensive ends guessing about what they can do, opens up the playbook for Greg Roman, who doesn't, frankly, have the most expansive 3rd down passing playbook. So if they can run the ball more efficiently, it's going to make everyone's life easier.
Every time Bill is on the show, he presents a stat that I have not heard of before, and we are a very stat-heavy show. I love that one, Bill. Here's another one. This is my stat, okay? The Chargers have had a 100-yard rusher just 3 times over the last 2 seasons. You see how imperative it is to get that run game going to help out Justin Herbert. All right, let's get to some top stories from around the league, starting with Chargers coach Jim Harbaugh. Some news coming down today from the NCAA. Jeremy, what more can you tell us?
Yeah, the Michigan Wolverines were hit, Laura, by the NCAA for a lack of compliance dating back to the Connor Stallion situation a few years ago. And here's how it affects the now Chargers coach Jim Harbaugh. He's got a 10-year show cause in college football. So if he were to return to the college game, the team would have to prove that they shouldn't face heavy sanctions if he's there. So with him and his age being at the Chargers, he seems very happy here. Probably not going to leave for college anytime soon. Now you got Micah Parsons, Cowboys contract situation. So I've heard the latest is there have been no substantive contract talks of late. Dallas is really just hanging on the offer they made him back in April to see what happens. So right now, Parsons, his trade request still stands, and this is a true standoff with no real signs of progress. I do know the Cowboys have 0 plans to trade Micah Parsons right now, so something has to give here. Trey Hendrickson. Now, out of all the contract disputes we're talking about, this one might have the biggest glimmer of hope, I would say. They've been talking at least. There's been some communication. The Bengals had made an offer around the time of training camp. They got somewhat close to a deal. So no major traction at the moment, but the hope remains that they can figure out something like a 2-year extension to keep him among the highest paid pass rushers in the league. Then Matthew Stafford. So according to our Sarah Barshop, supposed to work out on Saturday, do another throwing session. This is a story that is one to watch because it will not dissipate. I haven't talked to anybody with the Rams who expects Matthew Stafford to miss week 1. They all feel that this is more of like a nuisance, just sort of like a nagging issue in his back that won't go away. But they've tried a few different things now and it just won't dissipate. So they're trying to get him on the practice field. They're not there yet. If he's not on the field in late August, it's time to worry. But right now, nobody there is worried.
Yeah, when it initially started being reported, we were all like, he's fine, older guy back. It is getting a little more dicey. We'll keep an eye on it either way. Saturday, of course, when that workout happens. All right, we're just getting started on NFL Live. The Steelers are hoping Aaron Rodgers can provide a lift to their offense this season. Here, which position group Bill believes will be vital in making sure it all clicks in Pittsburgh. Plus, after a solid preseason debut, Cam Ward will get his second test tonight against the Falcons. Hear what Mina's hoping to see from the #1 overall pick. She'll explain that next. NFL Live is, we're going to check in on some teams impacted by major changes on the offensive side of the ball. We're going to start in Detroit, where star receiver Amon-Ra St. Brown looks to put Lions' offensive struggles in the rearview mirror.
You don't need to say it's a white elephant. We feel like as an offense, maybe this camp, there has been some struggles for us as an offense, but I think that's normal. You got new coaches, different things, moving parts, and you're going against a really good defense every day. For us as an offense, we know, the ability that we have, the playmakers we have, the quarterback we have, the O-line. So it's just a matter of time for us to just keep getting better, improving. Like I said, that's the name of the game for us right now. And as long as we can just keep stacking days, I think we'll be just fine.
Yeah, so maybe some hiccups in camp, but man, this Lions offense was elite with Ben Johnson as offensive coordinator. Moving on from that, of course, that they ranked top 5 in both points and yards per game in each of his 3 seasons. It was a huge improvement from where the Lions were, as they ranked 20th or worse in those categories in 2020 and 21. Jeremy, what are you hearing about how the Lions offense has adjusted to new offensive coordinator John Morton?
Well, Laura, Morton has brought a different flavor to Lions camp than Ben Johnson had. From what it was told to me, Johnson was the type of quarterback who would stand back 20, 30 yards away. He'd have the radio. He would call in the play to Jared Goff. Well, John Morton will be there in the mix as Goff's making a throw in between plays, talking to him, in guys' faces a little bit. So it's sort of been a different change, maybe a welcome change to some, not good or bad, just something they've had to adjust to. But this is going to be hard to mess up because the Lions, from what I saw at their camp, they're even more talented than they were a year ago. Also watch for Jared Goff to have more ownership on this offense. He's in his 10th year now. He told me he's more comfortable speaking up with Morton. They already have a good chemistry. He'll tell him if he doesn't like something or if he wants to run a play that they're not utilizing enough.
So Morton walks into a great situation. As Jeremy alluded to, the Lions are still stacked offensively. I think for him, there's 2 challenges, though, in replacing Ben Johnson. One is the Lions do have changed on the interior of their offensive line, center guard position. So if there are struggles early on, Morton has to show, can he make adjustments to that? Maybe it's a different style of run game. Maybe it's more quick game. Whatever it is, that's going to be important early on. And then something that Ben Johnson was fantastic at was play sequencing. So often when you watch the Lions, it felt like they would call a run in the first quarter that would set up a pass in the fourth quarter, and they were so good at attacking defense's weaknesses. That's another thing Morton has to prove. It's one thing, to be given the world's best ingredients, but a chef has to know how to use them, and that's something I think we're going to see early on with the Lions, whether or not he can do that.
Yeah, the Lions scored at least 30 points in each of their final 5 regular season games last year. We know how good they were, especially on that side of the ball. Let's go to Miami, where Tua didn't hold back when asked about the Dolphins' offensive struggles in camp this week. Here's what he said.
Well, some of the frustrating things, like I said, was we couldn't get ourselves jump-started as an offense. We couldn't gain that momentum to where, all we needed was one play and then jumpstart the offense. I don't think you put this behind you. I think you got to face it head on. Any of these challenges, any of these hardships that you go through as a team collectively, you gotta look at it head on. You got to face it. You got to look at it for what it is. You got to learn from it.
The Dolphins were one of the best offenses in the NFL 2 seasons ago. They ranked top 3 in points, yards per play, red zone efficiency, and pass yards. That changed last season with Tua missing 6 games. They dropped to 19th in points per game and 22nd in yards per play. It feels like this whole offseason in camp, especially, we've heard Tua have to stand up to the mic and say all these things. Bill, how big of a role does the run game play in the Dolphins getting this offense back on track?
It's essential. When this offense has been great, of course, Tua's been playing well, but it has been the run game that's propelled them forward. Think about that 70-point game against the Broncos. They had Devin Achane and Raheem Mostert getting big run games. They have not had the explosives, really, since that game in that season. Last year, they were down to 31st in the percentage of plays that went for 20 or more yards. That was down all the way from 4th the year before when that offense, as you said, was playing excellent football. This is not always going to be the most consistent offense. They're going to have, they're going to try some stuff with Mike McDaniel. Some stuff might not work. You might have some plays like this reverse that gets, lost for negative yardage. But if you can hit those big plays, that makes up for a lot of mistakes, strikes fear into opposing defenses. I think that's what they have to see more of, especially with Achane, who we all know has that talent. But can he do it consistently and create big plays consistently in this Dolphins offense?
2 objectives for the Dolphins. One is to be more physical on the offensive line, to Bill's point, be able to get those short yardage situations, goal line touchdowns. They brought in some younger offensive linemen, drafted some guys they feel like will be really good. They're maybe not quite ready now. They're hoping by midseason they will find their stride. Then the Dolphins have to get the most out of Tyreek Hill. It's funny, over the last week, I've talked to several teams who wonder if Hill will be an eventual trade target down the line, maybe closer to the deadline. I was told the Dolphins have no plans to trade him. So it appears that they are all in on Hill for 2025. He had a down year. He had to rebuild some trust this offseason with Tua and others after quitting on that last week of the season. He's got a lot of work to do, but he still draws 2 and 3 defenders almost at all times. The Dolphins are going to take advantage of that.
Yeah, I could see why teams might be wondering about Tyreek Hill just based on his things that he said. And either way, right now, though, there's a lot of hope. Let's go to Steelers camp, where Aaron Rodgers and the offense started yesterday's joint practice against the Bucs hot, but then struggled toward the end. This coming from our Steelers reporter, Brooke Pryor. She tweeted, Steelers and Bucs joint practice finished off with a 2-minute drill where the Steelers offense didn't pick up a first down. Pat Freiermuth confirmed DK Metcalf dropped a pass on second down, but the overall sentiment was they needed to clean up a bunch of stuff. Now, the Steelers struggled to get anything going late in games last season. They scored 0. That's bad when the graphic just says a 0 on it. In the final 2 minutes of regulation where they were trailing, they were the only team in the NFL that failed to score a single point in that scenario. They lost 4 games by less than a touchdown and had the ball in the final 2 minutes each time. It just shows you that they had their chances but weren't able to get it done. Mina, what's going to be key for Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers offense if they want to find success this season?
Sorry, I'm still laughing at whoever put together that graphic and just wrote 0. I think improving on that, first and foremost. A couple of things come to mind. They got to run the football better. That was clearly a priority for them. They drafted Caleb Johnson in the 3rd round. The offensive line is being reshuffled a little bit. But I think any offense with Aaron Rodgers that's successful in 2025 has to be led by a run game, first and foremost. The other thing with Rodgers that I think is really significant is he has to be better against the blitz. 30th in QBR last year when blitzed. You really saw at the end of last season defenses key in on that against him as the year went on, realizing he had trouble with it. So for Pittsburgh, that's obviously starts with pass protection. That's giving him outlets, and like Jonnu Smith, for example. But that can't repeat this year or he's really going to struggle.
Yeah, you mentioned Jonnu Smith, and I do think the tight end group is going to be maybe the difference here in how the Steelers approach their offense in 24 versus 23. Arthur Smith has always loved more 2-3 tight end sets. He's always loved Jonnu Smith, of course. Now he has him with Pat Freiermuth, with Darnell Washington. That is going to be a group where I think we're going to see a lot more 12, 13 personnel, 2, even 3 tight ends on the field, and that has been something Aaron Rodgers has been better with over the past 3 seasons. He is 15th in the NFL in QBR when he has 2 or more tight ends on the field over that stretch. 30th in QBR with 1 or less. So maybe, more tight ends split out wide or in line, maybe giving longer paths to those pass rushers, maybe creating some defensive mismatches, giving Rodgers opportunities to find linebackers in coverage, safeties in coverage, make his life a little easier against those blitzes.
Bill, you know Arthur Smith all too well. He loves him some tight ends. And when I visited Steelers camp and talked to people there over the last few weeks, it is obvious that they are going to use Pat Freiermuth and Jonnu Smith a ton. And one player told me, hey, we might even be 3rd and 8, 3rd and 10, and we'll roll out 12 personnel. That's how comfortable Aaron Rodgers and Arthur Smith have come with those tight ends. So it's going to be a lot of those 2. It's going to be a lot of DK Metcalf. The question is, who emerges outside of that other group? Calvin Austin, Roman Wilson. They need those guys in a big way.
Yeah, they've got the pieces. Just got to figure out who exactly is going to step up. The Steelers haven't ranked in the top 10 in points per game since 2018. That was a long time. That was like 7 years ago. It doesn't feel like that long ago. All right, still to come. We're less than 3 weeks away from the season opener. So we're going to have Mina give us her top offenses in the league. Her order could surprise you, but it's a great list. You don't want to miss this. Mina's top 5 offenses next, right here on NFL Live. We're back on NFL Live. Let's get Jeremy Fowler in here with some top stories. Lots of news coming out of Cleveland this week. Jeremy, what's the latest there?
Yeah, lots of Browns here. I'll start with Isaiah Bond, receiver out of Texas. Oh, no, we're going Quinshon Judkins. Yep. I'm sorry.
All good.
Prosecutors have declined to file a misdemeanor battery charges against Judkins dating or stemming from a July incident in South Florida. So that does set the stage for him to sign his rookie contract with the Browns. I'm told that is not done yet. That will likely be a fully guaranteed deal. When that does get done, he factors to be a major player for the Browns in their backfield this year if he can get on the field. Then Isaiah Bond. He was a wide receiver out of Texas who was not drafted, had a sexual assault case that affected his stock. He was largely projected to be a starting caliber player in the draft coming out, somewhere day 2, day 3 range. Didn't happen. Bond issued a statement thanking the Cleveland Browns for believing in me. I'm told there is no contract yet, but it looks like his NFL future should be resolved here in the near future. Now we got Dillon Gabriel. He is slated to start tomorrow against the Eagles. I'm told that he is trending in the right direction, is expected to start, but they want to make sure his hamstring issue is all good in the morning. So they're going to sleep on it. They're going to check on him tomorrow, make sure he can move around, evade pass rush, all that. Should be good to go. So it'll be Dillon Gabriel, and it will be Tyler Huntley. The rest of the quarterbacks are either hurt, or in the case of Joe Flacco, they're treating him like a starter. They're waiting until the third preseason game for him to play.
All right, so we'll see. Sounds like a chance to see Gabriel potentially, maybe if not a lot of Snoop Huntley. But Bill, let's say Gabriel's getting the starting nod tomorrow, the hamstring's all fine. What will you be watching from him?
I want to see what kind of offense the Browns are running with him, because he was in a system at school where it was a very spread offense, a lot of RPOs. That's not what the Browns are going to do. They are not built to do that with this roster. It is going to be more run game, it's going to be more quick game, and it's going to be more throwing downfield. And that's some of the questions people had about Dillon Gabriel heading into the NFL. Does he have the arm to throw outside the numbers? Does he have the arm to throw deep, maybe off a play action? And I want to see if the Browns put him in opportunities and situations where he can do that in this game. Is he just running a simple offense just to try and keep things going? Or is this more of a job interview? Is this more of a, hey, can you do these things that we're not maybe sure you can do when it comes to Sunday? Can he do it now? If he does it, I think it's going to be a good opportunity for him to maybe win that roster spot with really his best chance to get significant playing time this week.
Yeah, again, I mean, the pressure is on for those quarterbacks. Of course, Shedeur Sanders dealing with the oblique injury, but he had a nice showing in his chance in the preseason. It's still in Gabriel's turn now. In case you missed it, earlier this week, the Titans' #1 overall pick, Cam Ward, had some high expectations for his offense heading into the season.
I think we honestly have the ability to be a top 10 offense, but also it goes on every guy in that huddle, including myself, bringing the right mindset every day. And us also playing together. I think that's the biggest things that we always put together. We never point fingers at each other on both sides of the ball. And we just got to always have that mindset that we can be the best offense in the NFL. And then it really just comes with just us caring about each other on the field, off the field, and I think a lot of that stuff will translate to the game.
By the way, I think so well said by Cam Ward, but let's talk top offenses, okay? Last season, the Ravens were the best offense in the NFL by expected points added. The Lions, Bills, Commanders, and Buccaneers rounded out the top 5. The only 2 teams that ranked in the top 10 that failed to make the postseason were the Bengals and the Cardinals. A lot of that had to do with the defenses. All right, let's have some Friday fun. Why not, people? This is going to be great. We've got Mina. She's going to list her top 5 offenses heading into the 2025 season. Mina, start us off. Take us through your top 5.
All right, I'm going to start at 5 with the Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles. Now, I know folks, Eagles fans, might be hearing this and saying, we just won the Super Bowl. Almost everybody's coming back. We're stacked. I understand. However, it cannot be forgotten that prior to the Super Bowl, during much of the regular season, there were ups and downs with the passing attack. There also was a change at offensive coordinator. That said, this offense remains stacked. Defenses are constantly having to key in to stop the run, and thus you get one-on-ones for A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. So I do have the Eagles as a top 5 offense this year, and would not be surprised if they do even better. All right, moving on to number 4. I'm going to go with the Kansas City Chiefs, the other team in the Super Bowl. So there is some skepticism around this group, I think because they weren't explosive last year. But while they weren't explosive, they were still a top 10 offense in success rate. They were first in time of possession per drive. And they get back that guy, Rashee Rice, who, for those who have forgotten, before he got injured last year, for the second half of his rookie season through week 3, he led all receivers in the league in yards after the catch. I think he is the missing piece in this offense. Hopefully they can be more explosive, but if not, the passing game will be more efficient. Staying in the AFC, I'm going to go with the Cincinnati Bengals, who, Laura, you talked about this. They were a top 5 offense in both EPA per play and DVOA last year. One of the reasons why I think they're going to be even better this year is no drama this offseason. No contract issues, no injuries. So you roll in having paid your top 2 wide receivers. You kept your 2 wide receivers, and they should be able to get off to the hot start that's been dragging them down statistically in recent years. Pardon me. Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. enough said with the Cincinnati Bengals. Number 2 is close between 1 and 2, but I'm going to go with the Bills at 2, of course, led by their MVP quarterback, Josh Allen. Not a group of world beaters at receiver. Doesn't matter when you have 17 under center and a dominant run game. Just paid James Cook, so no change there. This is an extremely good offensive line. And those receivers might not be, amongst the best in the NFL, but they get favorable looks because of all the attention paid to the quarterback stopping the run, face a ton of single high coverage. I think they're still going to be efficient, explosive. Number 1 should not be any surprise. The Baltimore Ravens, because they were the best offense in football last year. First in DVOA, first in EPA per play, first in explosive play rate, first in red zone rate. I mean, pick any metric you want. And largely everyone returns outside of a little bit of change on the offensive line. They also added DeAndre Hopkins. I think Isaiah Likely, who will be a little bit injured at the beginning of the season, has the potential to take a huge leap this year. Love the addition of Keaton Mitchell, or not addition, pardon me, the return from injury of Keaton Mitchell to this stacked running back room led, of course, by Derrick Henry. The Ravens are a wagon, and I see no reason why that should stop, especially because Todd Monken, their offensive coordinator, remains in the building, and he has been fantastic. Oh, I didn't even mention Lamar Jackson, who might be the best quarterback in football.
That guy. Mina, as you might expect, I love your list. I think it's excellent. Let's bring Bill in, though, see if he wants to poke any holes in Mina's list. What do you think, Bill?
Oh, it's always dangerous to disagree with Mina Kimes.
Yeah,
that is not
it.
a good place for anyone to be. But I am going to just throw out the Detroit Lions not making it into this top 5. One of the best offenses in football. They're returning so many of their playmakers. No, they don't have Ben Johnson, but would you put them maybe if the Chiefs are not necessarily at full strength with Rashee Rice missing for part of the year with their offensive line woes? I could see Lions fans sending some tweets right now as we're recording this show.
Yeah, I think you can make a case for the Lions inside the top 5. That was the one where I went back and forth between them, the Chiefs, and the Eagles. For me, this is the Ben Johnson thing. It's also about the interior of the offensive line. But I think by the end of the season, they're going to be rolling again. They're just too talented not to be.
There's so many good teams on this list. I zero in on that number 3, the Bengals. And we talked to Joe Burrow today ahead of our Monday Night Football preseason game coming up. He's so healthy. He feels great. He's talking about the offense needs to be better than it was last year. And I'm like, could it get better? I guess it could, but wow, that's scary for every defense that's going to have to go up against him. All right, coming up, Sam Darnold will take the field for the first time as a Seahawk tonight against the Chiefs. Find out what Bill wants to see from Seattle's new quarterback to make sure they get the most out of their offense next. This is a really interesting preseason game, I think. I can't wait to see what Darnold brings to the table. We'll be right back.